All right, we are live. Welcome. Hey, Leo, is that how
Yeah,
I
yeah,
should call you? Great.
yeah, that's great. Hello, Reed. Thank you for having me on your show. And yeah, like I said before, I've been following your work in the street epistemology community for a while. I've seen both interviews you've done and reviews and all sorts of stuff like that. And I really like your style. And then I saw you have some open slots there to interview people, and I was like, I better get him a chance to talk to Reed. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Sure thing. Where did you find the link originally? Just on my Twitter or something?
No, I've been in the Discord, the Street Epistemology Discord for about 2 years,
Mm,
and I've been on your channel several times, but I've never sort of went to the description of your videos, I guess.
mm,
And then just recently I went to the description and then saw the links. I think the one where I picked it up was the place where you have all your links. There's this website, I can't remember its name right now, where you have all your links. And
mm,
there I saw you have Calendly as well, and you have the book a session, and
hmm.
that's where I picked it up.
Nice. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, as I've been doing these private convos, now I'm also branching out, I guess, to doing it live as well. I've been wanting to do that. So yeah, thanks for doing that as well. This is a
Oh,
new experiment. And yeah, as I've been having these conversations, I've been building out this kind of way of using this website Miro.com to map out my various conversation and arguments. And this is what I've got so far. So I've got, we'll choose a topic and then we'll make a claim about it. And then we'll get our confidence for the whatever the claim is. And then we'll try to brainstorm some criteria for thinking that it's false or true, the confirmation criteria and disconfirmation criteria.
mm-hmm.
And then we can get into potential reasons for it or against it. And then we'll
uh,
weigh those
Pro
reasons.
like reasons for the claim or against the claim.
Hmm. Yeah, we can
How
work
are
together.
those reasons different than the confirmation criteria, or what do you mean by pro and con?
Yeah, like pro down here is like you're adding two, reasons to think that the claim is true. And we'll
Mm-hmm.
add reasons down there, and reasons can have different weight. And we can weight
Mm-hmm.
those reasons as well.
Ah, neat.
And the confirmation and disconfirmation criteria are more abstract. They're just
Right.
more like this for this kind of claim, what kind of things would count as good reasons
Mm-hmm.
for or against it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I see. Neat. Neat. And then we reach the end more or less then after we come with some pros and cons.
Yeah, yeah. Then we'll weigh those reasons, and then that will allow us to tip the scale a certain way,
Oh, okay, okay. I
and we'll
see.
see if our confidence matches wherever the justification arrow is pointing. And if there's a
Mm-hmm.
discrepancy, that might be a problem.
Right. I see. I see how that works. That's very neat. I like the setup.
And things. So yeah, let's now pick a topic. I've got this
Right.
little voting thing. I'll give us 20 votes each, and
Okay. So
so we
first, I think we
can.
should just tell the audience what the topics are. I think these are the ones that I sent, right?
Hmm.
One of them being preparing the results. I haven't clicked
Yeah, never mind. I did something. I,
yet.
I chose the title as well.
Um, right. So we have ethics of believing astrology. There are two sexes but multiple genders. The repeatability of religion,
Hmm.
morality of religious indoctrination, health of vegan lifestyle, and evolution.
Hmm.
Um, and those are the ones that I provided. And then how do I cast votes now?
And from the voting,
Or I don't know. I can just tell you that I'm mostly interested in talking about the repeatability of religions.
yeah, you want to talk
Um,
about that? We don't have to vote
I've,
about it then. Whatever you want to do.
that's, I don't know, if you give me 20 votes, I'll probably put the 17 there.
All right,
So
that's fine. We can take that one. So let's move this one down here and let's turn it into a claim. What is the claim around this topic that you want to make?
let me check my notes really quick as well, bring those forward. Street epistemology. So I think the way I wrote it in my own notes is the repeatability of religions. If the entire human knowledge about gods or religions would disappear, and if people would come up with new gods and or religions, none of them would be identical, as they would if we forgot, for example, the physics of gravity. Yeah. So if the entirety of knowledge, if the entirety of knowledge about gods, religions would disappear, and people would come up with new gods or religions, none of them would be identical.
Yeah, this is a common reason I hear for the claim that religions are false. Is that the claim that all religions are false? Or just no, that
I mean, I think you could also make it into a reason, but for me, it's more of a claim in itself, because
yeah,
how should I put this? I think because it's a topic that I don't know. I was discussing with a religious person in the SE Discord, and they said that nobody has ever given them something contrary to saying, God doesn't exist, and if there was evidence, I would believe. But nobody told him what that evidence should be. And so my claim was, if you can provide me an example or a scenario or an experiment where we would have people across, I don't know, a generation or on a planet or so forth, that come up with gods, they need to be identical with the ones we have made before, right? So we need two people, let's say, on two different sides of the earth, both coming up with the Christian God and the Christian, let's say, methodology. I don't know what to call it, theology, in an identical fashion, as you would if we would forget about, let's say, gravity, and we would put people, let's say, on two different planets. Eventually, they would come up with laws of gravity, and they would be mathematically identical to the ones that we would come up with. Even though they might stumble, they might have an erroneous version initially, and so forth. Eventually, they will end up to the same physical form equation, let's say. But if you do the same with gods and with religions, they will come up with gods and they will come up with religions. I don't deny that. They will just not be identical. They will just be new gods, based on maybe their environment, their group interactions, and things like that. So that's my claim in a nutshell. That's my claim in a nutshell, if it makes sense.
Yeah, fair to frame the claim as God exists, and one potential reason against that claim is this claim that if the entirety of knowledge of religion would disappear, then none of them would be repeated, or something like that.
Identical. None of them would be identical.
Would be identical. reason against this claim that God exists, because that's what you were talking about with that one person on the Discord, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Want to just keep
But
it as that framing and have a reason be that, or do you want to make that the claim?
so is now my claim I have to to say that God exists and I have to state my reasons for that? Or you want this confirmation criteria for those?
You can wherever your confidence is about that claim. That's where
I would rather go for God doesn't exist as a claim.
we can keep it in the affirmative and then have be, P is false and you're over on this side. Whatever side is, you need some justification.
Okay. Right.
So
Or I can just stay there if that, and I'll just keep it below. I'll keep a low confidence. How do I move this thing? Do I have to hold the button?
you click and drag it around.
I can't really. Okay, yeah, I can now.
All right.
So I'll put it around. My intent would be to put it around like 3%. I don't know if that's 3% there.
In the positive, that it's true, or it would be like negative 97.
Negative 97, I guess. Negative 98.
Yeah, near where I am. Yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere around there. Great. Yeah, that's usually where I hang out.
Yeah, it's a good place to hang out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So, all right. Now that we've got the claim, what do we mean by God?
By God, I guess I would mean supernatural entity.
Okay.
And I'm most familiar with the Christian God and the theology because I have been raised a Christian and I've been Christian for the majority of my life until a few years ago when I have became an agnostic atheist. So if you take that God, is all-powerful, all-knowing, what is he? All-present, all-powerful, and there's
good.
another one. Yeah, all good.
All loving or all
so
good.
Like loving, rather. I think they used to. They prefer. And yeah, he's the start and the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, we can go with that. Want to just keep it as the Christian God exists, or do you want to make it?
I think no. I would go just God exists because I think they're quite similar in effect. I think if you take the Judaic God is essentially the same. If you take Islamic God, is similar in nature because they're also Allah is based also on the Christian doctrine to some extent, or the Judaic doctrine, right? I don't know.
Right. So since we're on this side, on the PS false side, let's start with the confirmation criteria. What are some things that would cause us to raise our confidence about it abstractly? Not like specific reasons, but just abstract things.
Yeah. So, for example, if we would have this supernatural being coming every day on the night sky and saying, I am your God, I am your creator, I am your dad, or whatever he calls himself, right? Then that maybe would increase my confidence a little bit if we couldn't explain how that phenomenon happened and how that voice came all over the world's sky and at the same time. So yeah, some empirical evidence of him manifesting himself in ways that we can't even by far explain by scientific reasons or by scientific facts.
Okay.
Another one would be, I think the one would convince me most, I think, would be the one that I stated before, but now I would just make it as a confirmation criteria. If we would put different people on different, let's say, planets or islands or things like that, and we would tell them, or maybe we wouldn't even tell them that you have to come up with a god. We would just expect them to come up with a god because God wants us to discover him for some reason, right? And so we put these people in these isolated places, and they come up with a god, and that would confirm to me that God exists if they come up with the same identical god, all of them.
Okay, like an experiment of
Yeah,
something related to sociological experiment or something.
yeah, sociological. I think that's the right word. Experiment. And yeah, for repeatability, maybe. Sociological experiment, maybe not even repeatability is the right word, but like identicality. I don't know what the word would be to come up with an identical God.
All right. Any other kind of criteria?
Let
Empirical
me
evidence
see.
is very broad. Like,
Yeah, empirical evidence is very broad.
that could almost be like the entire set of criteria. What is evidence, or what is reason to believe something besides empirical evidence? Is there anything outside of that?
I was thinking about something like that now. So let's say that every night I would get dreams from a god, and he would say, I am your god. I'm sort of on purpose visiting you because I want to communicate something to you as well. And I would get that consistently, and then I would go to the doctor and I say, like, listen, I'm getting these dreams. Can you do some scans? Am I suffering from a mental illness, or is there something wrong with my brain? And if you say no, you're a perfectly healthy adult and your brain functions in normal parameters. But I would keep getting these dreams, then maybe it would increase my confidence to some extent.
Yeah, I think it would be classified under like special revelation. I think that's something I heard.
Yeah, maybe like individual revelation. You could say that.
And we would like, yeah, okay, great. Any other besides that? Anything from philosophy?
Anything from philosophy?
Like a mere philosophical deductive argument? Would anything like that do it?
I would consider listening, but I have listened so far for a long time, and I think it's almost like a trap, because if you try to philosophize this whole thing until you confuse me, and then I either lost the subject or I just say, whatever you say, it's like, that's why I feel that's what they've been doing for thousands of years, where they've been using philosophy to confuse people and to write 500-page books that nobody reads, or like in their entirety. And I don't want to lose my time on that. So to me, that wouldn't.
There is no philosophical argument that would
potentially there is, but you kind of have to summarize it to me in a few pages, not in a 500-page book. So, because I think if an argument is solid, you can summarize it in a few pages. But if you have to drag me on for 500 pages for you to make sense, I'm a little bit skeptical of that. But I am open to a philosophical argument that is solid to cause me reason to doubt. But I don't think it would cause me reason to believe as the social experiment that I mentioned. If that social experiment happens and they come up with identical gods, I am a believer from the day after. While with this philosophical thing, it will cause me to doubt, but I wouldn't believe.
Okay, gotcha. Want to move on to confirmation criteria? We can come up with more confirmation ones later, maybe. Is it the same empirical evidence as well?
So this confirmation criteria is what could this confirm that God exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how would you use empirical evidence to disconfirm that God exists? Let me think of that. Empirical evidence that God doesn't exist. I mean, yeah, for example, a lot of the Christian religion is based on Jesus and his big part of the religion. And then if we were to prove through empirical evidence that Jesus either didn't exist or didn't do the miracles that it's claimed that he did, or didn't write his text or say the things we think he said, then I think that would disconfirm at least part of the Christian religion. But
Okay, what kind of thing is that? What would we categorize that as? Is that empirical evidence?
yeah, I would say empirical evidence in this case. So yeah, if we through empirical evidence and I don't know carbon dating and things like that, can say, okay, this was supposed to be the cross of Christ, and through carbon dating we realize that it's not, or this other thing proves to us that God didn't exist, or not God, Jesus didn't exist. It's just a myth based on yeah, and that would be, I think, another criteria. I think historical how should you call it, historical similarity, because the Christian religion, based on my understanding so far, has a lot of elements of previous religions. So it's adapted from, I don't remember exactly what the religion is called, but for example, it was one thing that there was this other god, or that was born from a virgin before Christ, and sort of the theory is that they took that part of the story and they integrated it within the Christian religion, while the other religion died out. This one kept on persisting throughout history.
Okay. So historical similarity, is that, what do we mean by that as a kind of criteria of reason or evidence?
It's
not empirical evidence, it's something else.
It's not empirical. I mean, you could categorize empirical evidence, but it's too easy to put it on empirical evidence, because I think it's a little bit different. That it's yeah, it's like adapting a story. Like adapting a story. First, it's a book, then it's a cartoon, then it's a movie, and then we only remember the movie and we don't remember the book, and we say, oh, this is the true story, the one in the movie, because we don't remember the initial text.
Is this more fair textual criticism? Like, we're comparing a bunch of different texts and they seem to be similar.
Yeah, I would say that. And I just want to point out that so they're not identical. The religion before wasn't identical with Christianity. The gods were different. They even had several gods, so it was a polytheist religion. But I guess the parts that were most interesting, the parts that were most sort of get most views, almost, like most clickbaity, let's say, to put it in modern terms, you would pick those out and you would put them into your religion because you knew that, for example, that would generate fear, or that would generate curiosity, or that would generate credibility, or that would just simply be difficult to disprove, right? How do you disprove in those times that this virgin gave birth to a son, and that is not through God, right? So you take all of these elements that seem most incredible. Yeah.
Right. All right. Any other categories we need? Or let's do it.
This confirmation criteria that God exists. What about is it here where we would put the one that was sort of my initial claim that
what kind of that original claim?
that lack of repeatability.
What kind of category of reason or evidence is that? Is that it's not empirical evidence? It's a prediction of something.
I don't know. It's
Is it a thought experiment?
Yeah, I guess you could call it a thought experiment. You could call it, a thought experiment is quite precise. But not even just thought experiment, but like actual experiment.
It's a hypothesis.
Yeah, a hypothesis for an experiment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we're using our intuitions to pretty much not have to actually test it. We just, based on our background knowledge, we think.
Yeah, I think based on all the human knowledge we have so far, or the historical knowledge we have, we know that gods have been created throughout history. And we know, for example, the Egyptians had their own gods. They had Ra and Anubis and all of this. Then ancient Greeks had their own gods. Mesopotamians had their own gods. I don't know, Hindus and so forth. They all come up with their own gods, but we have never had cultures independently of each other in different parts of the world come up with the same God, which I would personally expect if I was God, I would reveal myself to this group and I say, hey, I am your God, and I am revealing myself to this you like this, and I am like this, and I have this Son, and I have this Holy Spirit, and write this book about me with these precise words, because that's what they say. The Bibles and these other books are based on the Word of God. And then I would reveal myself to another group of people, another part, and so forth. And on each island, in every small group of people where I would want to, I would reveal myself identically, because I am the God that I say I am.
Gotcha. All right.
And that never happened, right?
Any other criteria we need
for this confirmation?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would be even curious. I don't know if this counts as this confirmation criteria, but if you would just like delete all the churches, all the priests, and all the support system of a church, would religions continue to exist and prosper as they do today, or would they just disappear within a very short period of time? Right. So that's also my disconfirmation criteria, that religion is reinforced by the social structures and the organizations that we have. So if we remove all of the social structures, all of the churches, the priests, the books, would they continue to exist, and would they continue to exist the same, or would this God cease existing? Or that would also disconfirm.
That seems like another thought experiment that we might be able to have empirical evidence for someday.
Yeah.
Or it's in principle testable.
Yeah.
All right, great. So now we're on the PS side. Want to brainstorm some reasons for this case. And now that we have some confirmation criteria, what are some reasons that are empirical evidence or consistent and repeatable special revelation? That reasons. What's the best reason for this case, for the claim God exists that you've ever heard?
I'm not sure what you mean. What's the best reason? Like, why it's good that God exists?
Yeah. What is a reason that you've heard, or you
like moral, more on the moral side? Is that what you mean?
We have our confirmation criteria.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some reasons that would fit in this criteria? One of these that we can put down here under the pro side. So what's a reason people give for the claim God exists?
I don't know. I guess they claim at times, some of them, that there is empirical evidence that Christ existed. I think I've heard that, right? So Jesus existed, and there's empirical evidence for that.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was God, yeah.
So those two premises together, if Jesus existed and Jesus was God, then God exists. That sounds like a good reason. It's a valid reason. Maybe not.
It's a valid reason, but okay, Jesus existed, but how can we know that Jesus was God? Because I can say a guy called Mike existed, and Mike was God.
Yeah, this is the premise that we would potentially talk about. Jesus was God. Like, that's the premise. And is this begging the question? Like, you're using the conclusion in the reason.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't write that necessarily.
Okay, that's just one reason. Then what's another good reason that people give for it?
So I'm not sure if I understand correctly, but I think another big reason that comes up is that God provides morality and morals, sort of. Does that fall into this space here, this category? Yeah.
Something for making morality exist in God. God makes morality possible.
Has rather than that is the provider of morals. I think that's how I understand it. Is the one providing us morals and giving us the guidelines, the 12 rules of life, as Peterson says.
God provides morality.
Yeah, he's the one making it up. He knows what's best.
Okay.
What else is I think religious organizations are generous and helpful towards the the disadvantage. I don't know how you want to summarize that. Religious organizations are charitable in their actions. I don't know.
How does this connect to God exists? Like, religious organizations are in the world?
Well, because God has given them this mission to be good, and it's because of God that they are good essentially, and they're doing these things.
Oh, is the premise religious organizations could not do good unless a God exists?
Well, that's how I understood it when I was part of their thing. This was like, well, we're doing this in the name of God. We're, it's because of God that we're doing all of these good things, and God gives us power to do these things.
Is it religious organizations do good in the world? Do like what kind of good? Like really good stuff?
Like charitable stuff, helping homeless people. What do I know? Things like this, helping people that are disadvantaged, right? In like, let's say, disadvantage point in your life.
All right, that's a reason people give for thinking God exists.
I think so.
Okay. Want to do one more?
You haven't heard that one before, or what?
I mean, I think I have. Yeah, but it's probably not on the top 5 for apologists. But yeah, lay people, they might give that reason.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not an apologist, and I have never talked to like an apologist. I just talked to Jehovah's Witnesses, and I think those are a little bit
No, really.
not really.
Okay. Any other reasons to add for this side? Top 2.
It's like religions come up all the time. Therefore, religions exist. I don't know if that's something that would fit here. Therefore, or people come up with gods all the time, rather to keep it at the God claim. So people come up with gods all the time. Therefore, God exists.
I think the steelman of this is like the entirety of human cultures have the concept of a god.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
Yeah,
Is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
yeah. I think so. That's more or less the same.
All human cultures have the concept of a god,
Yeah.
and the connecting premise with that to make to thinking that God exists.
Well, therefore, God must be manifesting himself to these people, because that's how they come up with the concept of God. That's the way I understand the claim.
Like God interacts with all human cultures, all of humanity.
I don't know if interact is a good word. Does he interact?
Yeah.
I think rather God manifests himself somehow. I don't know how, but is in. Yeah. The concept of God in all human cultures was caused by God. Yeah, something like that. That's
Something
the
like that.
yeah, that's the way I understand it.
Okay, great. What's the top 2 reasons? One of the top 2 best reasons out of these 4?
I think all human cultures have the concept of God. That is
Okay.
one.
What's the second one?
And I guess the morality one would be the second strongest one from these.
Cool. All right, so now we've got some reasons for the case down there. Let's brainstorm some against it.
Finally clicked on full screen. I think that should have done this a long time ago.
Oh, full screen, yeah. All right, great. So I think we have one reason so far, or one premise
Wow.
of it.
You were so ahead of me, eh? This was the first thing I said, and you knew your framework so well. You came to the end of the process, and it's in this box that this
Yeah,
goes.
this is where that goes, pretty much.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that shows the level of experience you've been you have with at least with this beautiful model here.
Thank you. So yeah, so if the entirety of knowledge of religion would disappear, then none of them would be
Then
identical.
no gods, I guess. Then God doctrines, because you look at the whole doctrine, right? The whole religion. That the God is based on a religious doctrine.
This is what I'm hearing. If it disappeared, then that knowledge would not be replicated ever.
Then it would not be replicated identically.
Yeah.
Identically replicated.
Ever. Is ever in that claim?
I mean, yeah, you can add it or not. It's the same thing, yeah.
Okay. Wouldn't. I'll just
Therefore,
say would
God
never
doesn't.
be.
Yeah, that's a very succinct way of adding it, yeah.
All right. Now this. How do we connect this knowledge would never be identically replicated to the claim God exists?
If a God doctrine would not be identically replicated, it means humans make gods up as a consequence of other factors.
Yeah, it's like imaginary things.
Oh, I can hear a lot of like religious people getting triggered right now when you wrote those two words.
Like things that don't exist, if lost, will likely never be replicated. Or what is that?
No, because you can lose. For example, you can lose knowledge on chemistry, you can lose knowledge on biology, and then if we will come back to a level of society where we have the time, the resources, the knowledge to research it again, then we will replicate that knowledge identically. So we will still make the same anatomical body. We'll still come up with hydrogen, oxygen. We'll realize that H2O is water and so forth. Whereas with a God, we will not replicate the same God. We will not come to the same conclusions as we would come with other evidence-based, let's say, beliefs. So the way I would write it, it would be, yeah, okay, let's see what you're writing first.
Is this
Real
the premise?
phenomena is replicable. Yeah? is, yeah, I think, yeah,
And like,
I think it's a very succinct way of putting it.
how about we add this from the definition? Omnipresent phenomenon is replicable. Like the laws of physics are omnipresent.
Yeah,
Is that fair?
yeah,
And we can replicate experiments to show that they're omnipresent.
indeed.
Oh, I like that. That is the premise. Omnipresent phenomenon is replicable.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other reasons against it?
So this is bring some reasons against the case, against the claim that God exists. I mean, can we have a look on the right side again and see what we had there and then pick those a little bit apart?
Well,
Or,
we can do counters to these below.
yeah, counters.
But do you have anything without any of these words against it?
Let's see.
Yeah. We can add counters to any of these premises. Or I'll just go down here, any of these premises. But ideally, do you have any reasons against it that don't use these concepts of morality or culture?
Okay. Okay, let's try. Let's go back there and so I can see the blank page and think.
Yeah.
So reasons against God existing. I don't know exactly how to put this in a succinct way, but what I'm thinking is that we come up with God beliefs because our brain is biased and we are answer-seeking creatures, and therefore we come up with a God belief or a supernatural belief, even when one doesn't exist, simply because we need to fill in this void that the bias in our brain requests to be filled. Does that make sense, or would you like me to rephrase it?
Could you rephrase it in a sentence, in a tweet-sized sentence?
In a tweet size, yeah, that's why I'm not on Twitter. I have to get on Twitter to get better at this. So let me see. God beliefs are a response to not understanding the world or physics, not understanding the environment, the world, and fill in the need to understand.
I'm hearing God is an imaginary concept in your reasoning. And then there's reasons to believe that it's an imaginary concept, like human cultures came up with it for potential psychological or sociological reasons. But the core claim is God is an imaginary concept. Is that the right word to phrase that as? Imaginary concept, or some other phrase is better?
God is, maybe differently. God is a human thinking bias. Maybe that's a bit more. It's the same words, imaginary concept, but just putting it a bit more to the point that I was making. So God is a
product of human bias.
Product of human bias. Yeah, sort of a human thinking bias. Maybe it's more specific than just human bias because there's a lot of human bias. Human thinking bias. Yeah.
Thinking bias.
Yeah.
Okay. And how does human thinking biases
Human thinking biases. I don't know, because this, like, you don't have any headers to these two columns. So I'm like, what is the header of the first column? What is the header of the second column? What am I trying to fill in?
They're each reason has at least two premises. Like I need a premise that has God in it, and then I need a premise that has exists in it, and then we'll connect those
Right.
to the claim.
Okay, let's go back then. I'll see how I can. And so God is a product of human thinking biases. And human thinking biases are unreliable and shouldn't be relied on. I guess, I don't know. That's how.
And this is a connecting assumption that, if true, would make that valid. Products of human thinking biases don't exist.
That's a good question. I never thought about that so specifically, because they might exist. Like sometimes you can be biased, but by accident you can still reach the truth, I suppose. So products of human thinking biases might exist, or might not. I'm not sure. So
can we say God is a product of human imagination?
Yeah.
That is another potential reason.
Human imagination. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. It's quite similar and maybe even simpler to understand.
How about this is merely the product?
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. All right. Want to go with that as the reason, the second one?
I'm not sure. It's because I don't. Because the reason why I have a little bit of uncertainty here, because you can imagine something. So you have a product of human imagination. But which you could potentially test afterwards, and you can confirm it.
Yeah, that's why I put merely.
Oh, that merely. Okay. So God is a product of human imagination. Your product of imagination don't exist. Yeah, okay. In that sense, yes. If it's not treated as a hypothesis, it's just an idea, mere fantasy.
Okay, great. I need to add God exists somewhere in here. The relationship between religion and God. God is a concept from religion. I think that's the premise.
Yeah.
And then we connect this premise to this. And then omnipresent phenomenon is replicable. Omnipresent phenomenon is replicable. I need something about existing.
Omnipresent phenomena is replicable, therefore it exists. That's how I would sort of.
Replicable phenom things exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. All right, so now we have 2 reasons against and 2 reasons for. Great.
Right.
Now, let's now make sure we're using valid reasons. So God is a concept from religion. If the entirety of knowledge of religion would disappear, then that knowledge would never be identically replicated. Concept from religion. All right, I think this is a valid argument. So let me turn these lines into solid lines. Like, yeah. All right, are all of these premises true?
Yes,
God
God is a concept of religion. If the entirety of knowledge of religions would disappear, then that knowledge would never be identically replicated. Well, it hasn't, based on all of our knowledge so far. Historically, it has never been replicated, so that is also true. Omnipresent phenomena is replicable. That is true. Yeah, like if we take, I don't know, like we mentioned, examples from chemistry, examples from biology, examples from physics, they are all replicable. And might I add, also useful.
Okay.
But this one here is something that requires could be supported by how to say, a test of itself. This one, with if the whole knowledge of gods would disappear, would it be replicated? That could be supported further by experiments rather than just historical evidence, let's say.
Okay. God is merely the product of human imagination. Is that true? Is that begging the question? No, it's a reason against it.
It's a reason against it, yeah. That sounds true to me. And I think the reason, the way I explained it, sort of made more sense to me, in the sense that we come up with God as a response to not understanding our environment, to not being able to cope with our environment, to not being to cope with the imperfections of how our body and our brain is designed in relation to our environment. We're not 100% perfectly adapted to our environment. So we come up with the God belief in order um, to cope easier with it, and have our imagination help us through the difficulties that we face during life. So I would say, yes, God is merely a product of human imagination, based on that example and based on that reason that I give.
Okay. I'll leave it as a question mark until we add more reasons, but I think we're almost out of time. So going on to the next one, these reasons, premises, all human cultures have the concept of God. Is that true?
I wouldn't be completely sure. I don't know certainly.
Don't know.
I I don't know, because how can I know that, you know, before recorded history, did they have gods or not? We don't know for sure. Did other species other than Homo sapiens also have gods, or is just Homo sapiens that have
Mhm.
developed the concept of gods and the need and the design for God? Um, you know, did the Neanderthals have gods? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
So the other premise, the concept of God in all human cultures was caused by God. Is that true?
no. And what reason did I give when we were there? Or maybe I didn't give it, but just because something happens, you can't accredit it to the thing that happens. It could be 15 reasons that cause you to have a belief in God, and one might be um, psychological comfort. Psychological comfort isn't equal to God. One might be bias in understanding. One might be wanting people to
Hmm.
follow a set of rules. One might be social coherence. One might be, and so forth. So,
These are potential reasons against this premise.
yeah,
There's alternative explanations for
yeah,
for how the concept of God came about. All right.
yeah.
I'll leave that as a question mark for now. Morality exists. Is that true?
I guess so, as a field of study, right?
Mm, as more like an ontological thing, like moral values are real.
Yeah, or at least moral values is something that humans value and work with and towards.
Okay. And God provides morality. We don't know about that.
I would say that there's no evidence for that, because morality seems to come more from humans than anything else. Because even if you don't have God, we have laws, we have guidelines, we have you know every Discord has its own set of rules. That doesn't mean that God provided those specific morals for that Discord or for that group or for that community.
So
So I
you
would say that it's false.
fall for that premise.
Yeah. And as I was saying, false for this one as well. But
Okay, make that false. All right. So now, feel free to rate or vote for the amount of weight for each reason, and I'll give 40 votes, 10 per reason, potentially to add. And
okay, so how?
I'll show you in a second. There we go. There we go, and I'll join the voting. These are just the reasons we have right now, but you can click on that little plus to give each reason weight, and you've got the number of weights you have at the top. You have 40 weights to distribute.
Yeah, and where is the plus?
Under counter 1, counter 2,
Oh,
reason
right,
1,
right.
reason 2.
Yeah, I see them now. So the one that I think is strongest, I give the most votes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So
Oh, I did something wrong.
only one vote
Yeah,
per object
let me fix
is.
that. Hang on. I need to uncheck that. Still working on the Miro thing. Yeah,
Yeah, no
uncheck
worries.
that.
It's
there, and there. Start.
it looks pretty neat. I don't know how much more you're planning to work on it, but it's pretty neat already.
Yeah, I think it'll evolve. It's getting better every week or so.
Right. So I'll put, I don't know exactly, this one at least. I don't understand if we, at least I said that this two reasons on the right side for the pro,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they are false because at
Then they
least
would probably have
once,
no weight or
yeah, then
very
they probably
little.
have no weight, right? So it's okay to not give them any weight.
Yeah, we're very much on the far side, so I would expect to see that.
Yeah.
So, have you given all your weights away?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'd have.
On the top right, are there any numbers there?
Now it says I ran out of votes.
Okay, great. Preparing results. There we go. Cool.
So this 40.
Like all the weights on
42.
one side.
Yeah, and you were quite generous with
What was that?
one vote.
42 plus 37. That's 79.
79.
I've got a little spreadsheet calculator because I can't do this in my head. Versus 1. So, yeah, that's negative 98. That's exactly where we are, pretty much.
Negative 98.
Right? That's about there.
This is so neat, the way the whole thing just moves. And
So I think we're dead on with our reasons and our confidence.
yeah, so it checks out, sort of thing, right? What is the K minus P
That's
confidence
that's
minus?
that's this little black strip is not P, or you believe not P, or you don't believe P,
Right.
or you don't believe not P, or you believe P, or you know P. And that's the different sections. Another way to label the confidence. So great. I think we've explored a lot here. Of course, we can go on maybe later, maybe another time, to investigate these individual premises. Like we'd have reasons for these and reasons for those premises, reasons for all of this. That's the main level of it so far. There you go. How was
Right.
that?
That was that. Thanks very much, Reed. It was a pleasure to do this. And yeah, thanks for listening and being patient when I had to clarify my thoughts. I also had to get used a little bit to this framework. I've never seen this before, so it was interesting to work with. And this is just something that you have and that you use, right? I
Yeah,
imagine.
this is something I made up myself. This is
That's
how I
cool.
think about epistemology, reasons for thinking various things, and I enjoy it. I enjoy doing this.
Yeah, very nice. And I was hoping, probably we don't have time today, but I was hoping at some point I could also interview you and then try my hand at street epistemology on one of your claims, if you're up for that. I
I'd
don't
love to.
have this very fancy spreadsheets and things like that, but I think we could do what do I call it, an old-fashioned conversation with testing it and just writing reasons on paper and things like that.
Sure thing. However you want to do it, I am open. Sure thing. All right.
Sounds great.
Let me check my chat. Anything happening in your chat? Let me refresh StreamYard. I think.
Okay, so private chat comments. It's a Christian.
All right, great. Oh, hey, Dolly.
Okay, yeah, we have.
Is this still working?
Yeah,
Anybody
I can
there?
hear you. You refresh, right? I can see the comments here from a few people. There was a Gamio saying this is fun. Isn't the claim reason isn't readily repeatable from first principle basis. So yeah, we had some people.
Nice. Yeah, and this is my second channel. Like, I just throw some things on here. So great. This was fun. Oh yeah. Hey, Dolly. Good to know. Great.
Juggling lessons. I'm well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, another SC legend is here with us today.
Yep. All right, cool. I'm going to take a coffee break, and then we're going to do another SE review show coming up in half an hour or so. So be prepared for that on the Street Epistemology channel.
That sounds great. Looking forward to that. And have a good one, everyone.
All right, thanks.
Bye,
Later.
Reed.